1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back to It's Not a Sport, Season 4, Episode 3. Quick reminder, as always, before we get into this week's talk and this week's news, make sure to leave a like, follow, and subscribe. Leave a comment as well. I really would like to know what you guys are thinking, what sort of videos and what sort of things I can talk about for you. And then, on top of that, make sure to follow our social media as well, to follow our updates on Twitter, new content on TikTok and Instagram, and all of our podcast shows will be archived on the YouTube, as well as you want to listen to our shows on Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud. They're all up there. With further ado, let's get into this week's show, which is about Berserk. Now, if you haven't read this article already, I posted this last year up on the website. Go and read it. It's the inspiration for the Souls games, in which I talk about where Dark Souls and the Souls franchise really pulled some of its inspiration from, and that is, of course, Berserk. Now, Berserk, I read over the break, and it quickly became one of my favorite mangas ever made. Not only, as you can see from this panel up on our YouTube channel if you're watching the VOD, the art and the detail is beautiful, but the story, the progression, the characters, you understand their wants and needs. It is a piece of art that the characters shape the world rather than the world shaping the characters. In most pieces of art, the world is very bland and the world doesn't really affect characters as much. But in Berserk, everyone wants their own needs, everyone wants their agenda, and doing so progresses the story in a way that really no artist get close. And the closest that I've ever experienced this is, of course, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, which I think I'll put contrast and compare the two later on. But with further ado, let's talk about the protagonist of Berserk and the kind of the trio that makes this story work. Guts. Guts is known as the Black Swordsman. He's an iconic character for carrying a really big ass sword. I'm sure you've kind of encountered this in Dark Souls. His moveset, we've talked about this in the article, is very similar to, let's say, Artorias and Slave Knight Gale. He is something else, and he is a really good protagonist because as we follow his journeys, we follow his pains, we follow his hopes, his dreams, and we see him go from a nice young boy who's battle scarred, who wanted to survive, who wants to deal with nobody, to bringing in companions, bringing in friendship, to pushing that away again, to going really angry, dark, hating everyone, hating life, destroying everything in his waking path to get revenge, to back to becoming more of a father figure and a leader for people to rally about. His progression throughout the story is great, very well written, and is the same kind of progression that we see in an example like, JoJo's Bizarre Adventures or Naruto, where you see them become something that they're angry and they grow throughout the story. And Guts is a fantastic protagonist, and you really feel with Berserk's main kind of theme of pain and suffering, and a lot of the undertone themes of fate, and being guided, like things like that. Guts is the embodiment of that. And then you have Griffith, who is the antagonist of the series, not at first, but he's the opposite of Guts. Instead of things being hard and difficult for him, he has things easy for him. He's very heavenly. He's very beautiful. People want to follow him. People want to look up for him. He wants to, and his main thing is to achieve his goal of running his own kingdom. That's his thing. He wants to do that at any cost, and people love him for being the heroic leader. But underneath it all, he's not so heroic. He's really dark, and he needs Guts, because Guts is someone who, is on his own. He's Mr. Solo Dolo, and he needs him, and that makes Griffith go down a very dark path and a very dark trail. And then you have Casca, who needs Griffith, but Guts needs her. So it creates this weird kind of love triangle between them that really ends up working out, and it's really well thought out and very well progressed, as these characters, all three of them and the supporting cast outside of them, all want their own thing, and they all affect the world. The choices Griffith made, the choices Guts made, the choices Casca made, all affects this world of Berserk. And it's really, really difficult to put into words. Berserk is just something that I think everyone needs to go out and experience for themselves. It's one of those just legendary mangas that it's so legendary that out of this year alone, it's only updated once. We've only got a new chapter, and when that chapter comes out, everyone's super hyped for it, because we want to see how good this man's art is, how good this man's storytelling, how the detail is, what the characters are doing now, what is the next move within the story. It's so much to Berserk, and there's so many layers to it, that it has just become an instant classic up there as one of my top ranking mangas. So anyway, just to get into some of these pictures, here's an example of Griffith's heavenly feel. This is one panel later on in the series, but here he comes, and he looks like a god with the smoke, and he's an angel. They call him the Heavenly Falcon, the Falcon to save everyone and bring salvation to the land. This is him, showing up in front of them. You think, oh my god, how majestic, whatever. It's very reminiscent of Dio's stairs scenes, which is again you're looking up upon God. That's he's heavenly, he's an angel, he's perfect, and he's up there, and you're going to face against a force greater than yourself. That's a theme with an antagonist that I really like, because the antagonist is the end all be all. They're the challenge to overcome, no matter what game or whatever you're playing. They're the big baddie. That's what makes a good antagonist. This is why Griffith is a great antagonist. This is why Dio is a great antagonist, because they're set out to get their goals, and you have to stop them, or the protagonist has to stop them, because they know they're wrong. So World of Berserk, I think here on the screen we have this three stories arc: the Black Swordsman arc, the Golden Age arc, the Conviction arc, the Falcon and Millennium Empire arc, and the Phantasia arc. But I really think the story's broken up into three phases so far. You have, and it starts out in the first three volumes, it's very confusing, but I think, and it's very hard to get past the Black Swordsman arc. But this is the Dark Age arc for me, which comes actually later. So we're gonna skip that for a second, and we're gonna go in the first arc, which they've animated. They made into movies, and the movies aren't bad. Don't watch the anime. The anime's bad. Read this. Just read Berserk. I highly recommend reading it. Warning though, there are sexual themes that come with it, so it's for a mature audience. But just read Berserk. It's much better than watching it, I think. So the Golden Age arc, which I like to split into the Age of Humans, the Age of War, the Age of Humanity. It follows Guts, Griffith, and Casca's story as they fight to end a war. It is completely no monsters, nothing really. It's just humans fighting humans. But when we get past that, and the big event happens called the Eclipse, and Guts and Casca's and Griffith's life all change for the worse, especially Guts. We get into the Dark Age arc, and it becomes more like The Witcher, right? Where there's just monsters at night tearing things up, demons everywhere, which they were called apostles in Berserk. They are forces of evil that work for the god hands, and the god hands work for the fate of all things. The will of casualties is what it's called, that dictates life and how things go. and Guts is mad about what happens, and he's living in this dark world because he's cursed. These demons, these things that lurk in the night want him. They want him dead, and he has to defend himself. He's very angry. He's in a dark place in his life, and that's kind of what happens after the Dark Age. That's where the story starts off in the Black Swordsman arc, which is very confusing. But as we progress past this phase, we get into sort of right about here in the Millennium Falcon or the Convention arc, we get into the Phantasia arc. Kind of starts early, where now the world changes, you know? Like if I click here and we see the world changes, where now we have, it's not about those monsters lurking anymore. Those monsters are there in broad daylight. You know, we have unicorns now in the world. We have fairies now in the world. We have dragons around castles. We have demons, you know, everywhere. It's the world itself changed. And as the world changed, the people in it have to adapt. They have to survive. They have to decide new things on how to live, on how to do things at in this new world, because the world has changed, so their motives have changed. It's a story where the world really affects the people that live in it, and there's no story that really does that like this. So moving on, like, just for example, this is the cover of the first volume of Berserk, and here we see Guts and how he's holding his sword. He's young, he's angry, you can see it. But as the story goes on and we get to number 38, he's a lot more battle scarred, he's a lot more older. You can see he's a lot more wiser. Look at how he holds his sword, how he's got the gray hair now. Things have changed. And all these arcs, again, you can watch there's an anime, or there's also a movie of Golden Age arc. It's been animated the most, and I highly recommend you go and read it. You just go read it. But there's just something about Berserk that really no one else can do, and I think it all sums up in these last couple chapters, which of course is actually in the first Black Swordsman arc. The first thing you encounter, it really just sets the tone for Berserk already at the end. Here Guts just gets out of a really bad, really tough situation, and this girl just lost kind of everything that she had to her. Her father just passed away too, and after that she blames him. He says, it's all because of you, because of you. And then she says, I'm gonna kill you, you're a devil, I swear to someday I'm gonna kill you, right? And Guts' response is, fine, I'm ready whenever you are. Which is, pretty dark things, to say to a little girl who just lost her father, who just lost everything. He said, whenever you're ready to come and face me, I'll be here. And as he walks away, we the viewers see how sad he is inside, how sad he is and how much he's suffering for this little girl and for what just happened. And that alone just sets the tone for Berserk. All right, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation about Berserk. Berserk is a fantastic manga, one of my favorites that I found over the break. It's really the only manga, again, that out of really, I think, 3 or 3.5 that the world affects the characters. The other 3 being One Piece, Tower of God, and maybe JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. But they're all great reads, some of my favorites, and I highly recommend that when you get the chance, you check them out. So let's get into some news. First off, we have the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is coming to the Nintendo Switch. They're a subject of games, visual novels. I've never played them personally, but I've heard good things about them. They're from Capcom, and they will be coming to the Nintendo Switch on July 27th. That's great news, just to get more games out there on the new, like, in general. And then we have some Blizzard news, which is very sad and interesting. First, I want to backtrack a little bit before we get to this news and talk about BlizzCon and a Nintendo Direct that I missed over the break. Nothing really big came out of them. And then for the Nintendo Direct, the big one was Skyward Sword HD remastered for the Switch, which I believe comes out in July. And then for BlizzCon, the big one was probably news about Diablo 2 remastered or remake. So nothing incredibly huge, but those were two things that I forgot to mention in previous episodes that came out. And then this is very interesting news, but the Overwatch head or game of directors, Jeff Kaplan, has decided to leave Blizzard. This dude has been the game director of Overwatch since Overwatch's birth. He was the face of Overwatch, and the dude who's essentially said on the Overwatch update videos, "This is Jeff from the Overwatch team." That was his famous line. And he is now leaving Blizzard, which is very interesting considering how Blizzard's track record of them cutting off people and cutting staff, and the CEOs getting more richer and etc. And Activision Blizzard just has a whole bunch of drama behind it. The thing with Hong Kong and China with Hearthstone, they've been really in bad spotlight. And then seeing this dude leave Overwatch when Overwatch 2 is also currently in development, quote unquote, it's very interesting. It's very sad because this dude has been the leader of Overwatch. Overwatch is his baby since 2016, before 2016, probably when they were in development. So it's very interesting to see that. Also, with next week's talk is about Blizzard. I was very interested in Blizzard. Currently, I'm kind of sitting in Blizzard's corner playing WoW Classic, which is a completely different experience from retail WoW, meaning that WoW Classic has so much attention to detail and that they really mainstream for good and bad in retail WoW. So this news coming out of Blizzard is very interesting. Tune in to next week's talk. I really think I enjoyed it. Blizzard is just a company that has fallen from the light in my mind, and they're a good place to look at if you're a fan of Riot Games like me and a fan of League of Legends, because League of Legends is also, I feel like, falling out of the light because a lot of those people who are in charge of League, for instance Mark Gator, who is the current game director of League, who posts the patch notes on Twitter before they officially announce, he's been announced that he's moving away from League and the League team and is going to work on Riot's MMO. So Riot is becoming the new Blizzard in a sense. We've talked about this before, and Blizzard's a good place to look at, and there's a lot of cool history about them that you can find out on the internet, and we talk about it next week. We also have Sony will file a patent for AI that is mentoring your play and style. This is nothing new. They just, some new data for gameplay and more data for gameplay for players, what they want. They want more information. So it's, I don't know, it's an interesting move. These don't really mean anything at this point. They're just experimental stages. And then we have probably the best news of the week. Online multiplayer is free to play for games starting on April 21st for Xbox Live, which I wish Sony would do too, but they probably won't. So games like, for example, Apex Legends is now free. You don't have to have Xbox Gold to play Apex Legends on Xbox. Games like Brawlhalla, Warzone, Crackdown 2, Dead or Alive, Destiny 2, Fortnite, Paladins, Roadblocks, Rocket League, Skyforge, Smite, Terra, World of Tanks. Those games that I just named, just to name a few, are all free to play on Xbox now. You don't need Xbox Gold to play those, which is really, really nice, because one of the reasons why I feel like it's better to play on PC. It's because you don't have to pay for even free-to-play games like that. Like on PlayStation, I could not play Rocket League if I own it without PlayStation Plus, and that's really annoying. And I'm really happy that Xbox is making these moves. It's a very fantastic move for just casual gamers as a whole. So now let's get into esports. Good old esports, with a new addition, mind that I've started to follow, and I think I should follow as well. We'll get to that in a bit. First off, League of Legends still isn't happening. It's over. They're on kind of a short break till MSI, which starts May 6th, I believe, so relatively soon. And I believe the first game is Damwon versus C9. So, you know, you can watch it, but let me just tell you now, Damwon will probably win it. So, with that out of the way, let's get into Overwatch League. First, we have Philadelphia Fusions in first, followed by Houston Outlaws, then Chengdu Hunters, Washington, Florida, Toronto, Dallas, Los Angeles Gladiators, San Francisco, Seoul Dynasty. That's the top 10, where Seoul Dynasty, San Francisco, and San Francisco and Seoul Dynasty are all tied. They're both tied for 9th, and then we have Paris and Shanghai tied for 11th, and then we have New York Excelsiors, Atlanta, Hangzhou Chargers, Los Angeles Valiants, Boston, Boston from onward. Gangwoo Chargers, London, and Vancouver are all tied for 17th. Or actually, Vancouver's in last place. So the standings are all over the place right now, as they should be. The league just started. This is only their second week. Some really good games, though. Some really good games from the new players as well. So definitely look forward to more Overwatch League. And then the second league that I believe that I should start following, and we will start following, is actually Valorant Challenger League. So I kind of forgot about this, that Valorant came out and that they started a new league. It's very interesting how they have it set up. It's set up in brackets. So there's no real, like, they just play games. It's just brackets each week, and I think the brackets reset at the end of each week. So in the first week, we have Ninjas in in the qualifier round. This is all qualifier. Ninjas in Pajamas versus Ascend. Ninjas in Pajamas won. Alliance lost to Guild Esports. BDS won to Team Herrick, and Team Vitality lost to Fun Plus Phoenix. And then in semifinals, we had Gilded Esports versus Ninja in Pajamas. Gilded Esports won. Then we had Fun Plus Phoenix versus BDS. Fun Plus Phoenix won. And then in the finals, we had Fun Plus Phoenix versus Gilded Esports, and Fun Plus Phoenix 3-0'd them. That moves us on to the second week, where we had Team Vitality versus Ascend. Team Vitality won. Fnatic versus G2. Fnatic won. Ninjas in Pajamas versus BDS. BDS won. And then C Calling versus Team Liquid. Team Liquid won. And then we have Fnatic versus Team Vitality in the semifinals. Fnatic won. Team Liquid versus BDS. Team Liquid won, and in the finals we had Fnatic versus Team Liquid, where Fnatic won, and that was for Challenger North America. That was for EU. In North America, it's very confusing based on how they have a league. In North America, which seems to be a little bit bigger, in week 1 we had Edbox versus 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves won. We have Immortals versus Cloud9 Blue. Cloud9 Blue won. We have Built by Gamers versus Xset. Xset won. And Vision 1 versus Team Vitality. And Team Envy, my bad. Team Envy won and went to the upper bracket semifinals. In the lower bracket, we had in round 1 Immortals versus Andbox. Immortals won. Vision versus Built by Gaming. Vision won. Vision 1 because it's Vision, the word, and then the number 1, and then that's Cool name, very confusing. In the upper bracket semifinals, Cloud9 Blue versus 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves won. Team Envy versus Xset. Envy won. In the upper bracket finals, we had 100 Thieves versus Envy. 100 Thieves won. They moved forward to the finals. And in the lower bracket, in round 2, we had Immortals versus Xset. Immortals lost. Xset moved forward to lower bracket round 3. Vision 1 beat Cloud9 Blue. They moved forward to round 3. Vision 1 lost to Xset. Xset moved forward and versed Team Envy in the lower bracket finals. And in the finals, we had Xset versus 100 Thieves, where 100 Thieves won. That is all week 1. In week 2, we had T1 versus Cloud9 Blue. Cloud9 Blue won. Sentinels versus Anbox. Anbox won. TSM versus Immortals. Immortals won. And NRG versus Built by Gamers. NRG won and moved to upper bracket semifinals. In upper bracket semifinals, we had Anbox versus Cloud9 Blue. Cloud9 Blue won. Then we have NRG versus Immortals. NRG won. In the upper bracket finals, we had NRG versus Cloud9 Blue. Cloud9 Blue won and went to the finals. In lower bracket, round 1, we had Sentinels versus T1. Sentinels won. Then we had TSM versus Built by Gamers. TSM won. Then in round 2, Sentinels versus Immortals. Sentinels won. TSM versus Anbox. TSM lost. Anbox moved forward. In round 3, we had Anbox versus Sentinels. Sentinels won. Sentinels versus NRG. Sentinels won, and Sentinels won it all in the final versus Cloud9 Blue. Now, in Korea, and this is where I'm going to stop. There's other leagues too. There's Brazil, there's Turkey, there's Southeast Asia, there's the Commonwealth, there's Japan. There are a lot of different leagues. However, in the Challenger Series for Korea, we have in the upper bracket, round 1, we had I Need a Girlfriend. That's a funny ass team name. Versus F4Q. I Need a Girlfriend lost. F4Q moved forward. And then WGS versus Vision. Vision Strikers. And then Vision Strikers won in the finals versus F4Q. And then in the lower bracket, WGS went against I Need a Girlfriend. I Need a Girlfriend won, and then I Need a Girlfriend lost to Vision Strikers. Now, and this is really fucking weird how they have this set up. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, you can see it's really weird, hard to read just for standings. Next, they have another set of brackets. In the upper bracket, round 1, we had Food Eat versus Damwon Kia. Damwon Kia won, and then Aristocracy versus New Turn Gaming. New Turn Gaming won, and in the upper bracket finals, New Turn Gaming beat Damwon Kia. In the lower brackets for that, Aristocracy versus Food Eat, Aristocracy won, and then Aristocracy versus Damwon Kia in the lower bracket, where Damwon Kia won. Then they have another set of brackets where it's Feel So Good versus Go and Go Prince. Go and Go Prince won, and then Spear Gaming versus Rio. Rio won, and then in the upper bracket finals, Rio versus Go and Go Prince. Rio won. In that lower bracket, Spear Gaming first went against Feel So Good, where Spear Gaming won, and then they went against Go and Go Prince, where Go Gaming moved up to the finals. And then they have another bracket, which is Ginghyuna, so apologize if I butchered that, versus TNL Esports. TNL won. Then Goma versus 2 Plus Gaming. 2 Plus Gaming won. And then that final 2 Plus Gaming versus TNL Esports. TNL Esports won. In that lower bracket, Goma versus Ginghyuna. Goma won. Goma moved forward versus 2 Plus Gaming. 2 Plus Gaming won. and they moved. And then we have one quarterfinals, which I think that was all a tournament to get to this quarterfinals, and this is in week 1, where the quarterfinals, they haven't played yet. It's currently 2+ Gaming versus Rio, DM1 Gaming versus F4Q, Go and Go Prince versus Neutron Gaming, and Vision Strikers versus TNL Esports. And that's it for Korea. That is a lot. I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on this, just because Overwatch League is something that I want to follow. It's not like, it's very different from how League has had it set up, and it's very different from how Overwatch has it set up, and it's very different from how Counter-Strike has it set up. So it's definitely something to research, but there's some fun games to watch. They're alright to watch. They're entertaining. For game releases, last but not least, really nothing's big release. The big release, I think, to watch out for this past week has been Nier Replicant version 1.22474487139, or the remastered or remake of the Nier Replicant, the prequel to Nier Automata. I think that's the only real noteworthy one for me. We have Pokemon Snap coming out on the Switch on the 30th. We have Total War Rome Remastered coming out on the 29th. Genshin Impact came out for the PS5 on the 28th. We have Terminator Resistance Enhanced coming out on April 30th, and then that's really it until we get into May, with the first big release being on May 7th, which is Resident Evil 8. So that's going to conclude this week's episode of It's Not a Sport. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like, follow, and subscribe. It really helps us out. And a comment as well if you want me to talk about any conversations or come on the show and, argue your point. Anything like that is more than welcomed. Then we also have our website, our Twitter, and our Instagram, and our TikTok, where some new content should be coming up on there real soon. So definitely check those out. All links are in the description. It's Not a Sport to you. If you want to listen to our podcast and watch the video, all of them are archived on our YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can find them on our SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. They're all up there as well. You can find everything you need in the descriptions and the link below. There's an episode out there for you somewhere, since we're quickly approaching 100 episodes. 19 episodes away, so episode 21 of season 4 this season should be 100 episodes, so look forward to that, because I kind of want to do something special. Anyway, that's going to conclude this week's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful climb. This is your host, Salty Waffles, signing off.